No, Steiny, Larry Krueger in today, holding it down. 3 hours. We got 90 minutes, Larry. 2 o'clock, baby. We got it going. It's a payday Friday. I'm juiced. We got Matt Barrows, who covers the Niners for The Athletic. He'll join us at 1 o'clock. And you've been at camp all week.
Yep.
The people want to know what you saw. And again, I just can't believe we saw the great Christian McCaffrey get his new deal, 2 for 38, 24 guaranteed. And you know, the lone domino to fall is Brandon Aiyuk. And it's just amazing, Larry. As much as we talk about the Niners almost winning the Super Bowl, it's amazing. I could be in a bar, my friends, my family. Everybody has a different opinion on just how good Brandon Aiyuk is as a receiver. And I feel like he's playing in an offense that will never let him put up CeeDee Lamb type numbers, Jamar Chases of the world, Justin Jefferson. We saw that deal he got. But his mentor and friend, former NFL wide receiver, TJ Houshmandzadeh, who's doing TV, he joined Willard and Dibbs, and he's talking to Aiyuk. And I want to play this sound about what he thinks it would take to get Aiyuk in camp, and you tell me what you think.
Okay.
If they want to get BA signed, give him the Amon-Ra deal. Give it to him.
Okay.
And guarantee he'll be in there tomorrow.
You are.
They don't want to do that.
They don't want to do that. Your thoughts when you hear that, Larry? And
do you say Amon-Ra?
Yeah.
So Amon-Ra St. Brown makes, his annual value is $30 million. So he's saying give him $30 million. Now, Amon-Ra's total value of his contract was $120 million. And as far as guaranteed money, Amon-Ra got $84 million guaranteed. So, I think absolutely that would get it done. But I don't think the 49ers are offering that. Mike Silver reported a couple days ago that he thinks the 49ers offer is probably in the neighborhood of $26 million. So that's less. To me, when I look at the top receivers, I see Justin Jefferson, $35 million. He's better than Aiyuk. A.J. Brown, $32 million. He's better than Aiyuk. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Lions, $30 million. I think he's better. Tyreek Hill, I think he's better. He's making 30. To me, the guy that is kind of on the Aiyuk level is Jaylen Waddle. Jaylen Waddle makes 28.2 as far as average AAV on his contract. So I would say that's probably where Aiyuk should be, somewhere between 25 and 30 AAV on the contract. As far as guaranteed dollars, that's obviously the big number. And I would say, once again, Jaylen Waddle got $76 million guaranteed. So I think Waddle's deal is kind of right where I think Aiyuk's going to sit. I think he's going to probably sign a deal that's going to pay him between 25 and 30 million a year. I don't think he'll go north of 30. I think he'll be under 30. And I think it's probably going to be, a deal that has about 75 million guaranteed. So that'll be my guess.
On your metric or the Larry Krueger computer, are you shocked that it hasn't got done? Or do you feel like there's nothing to see here?
No, I'm not shocked it hasn't gotten done because the 49ers way is they are super hard negotiators. Parag Marathe is in charge of their negotiations. They're hard. They play hardball. And they fight it out and usually award a new contract, hours before you hit the field in August. And I expect the same thing that Aiyuk's going to get paid. They want him long term, but they want him at their price. All these dollars matter because you got other guys coming, including the highest paid guy on the team who's going to be Brock Purdy a year from now. So, I thought the one thing I did find interesting, though, in the last 24 hours is Matt Maiocco said that it's entirely possible that they don't sign him to a long-term contract and let him play out the final year of the deal and see where it goes from there. So they can do that. They can, But
why would Aiyuk show up to allow them to do that?
Because he's got no leverage.
You know what it is. The Sounder is time to listen for the next 15 minutes, and then we'll ask a question to answer for your chance to win a Kevon Looney bobblehead and qualify to win an autographed Steph Curry jersey. Bam.
Damn. Yeah, he has no leverage. I mean, so, if he doesn't want to accept their offer, what does he do? He can hold out, and then he'll, accrue fines this summer for missing training camp. And he could play out the 5th-year option and play this year for $14.1 million.
But then they would be able to slap on the franchise tag on him. What?
The Niners can still use the franchise tag on him next year, preventing him from hitting free agency. So he's got to come in this year and play to get an accrued year. Now, I'm not sure exactly what the deadline is for that, if it's week 5, week 6, week 8, but somewhere in there's a deadline. And if he's not there, it's like he didn't play at all this year, and then he's in his situation does not change. He just is in the same situation going forward, as you stated. He can play on the franchise tag, and they can tag him again next year if they so choose. So,
wow, man. I just the Niners were close, Larry. It went to overtime, obviously the Super Bowl, and you saw him on the bench, Aiyuk, and he wasn't the only one kind of gazing into space, and you saw his targets. There weren't many, and he didn't have a big impact on the game, and I felt like he was upset, and I get it. He's a competitor, but I'm just from a Niner standpoint, you come into this season, and I love the theme that I'm hearing from Kittle, even Kyle a couple of weeks ago, just talking about, we're trying to win. We want to get it done. And McCaffrey spoke on that, and we talked about his new deal. And, I brought up to anybody that would listen, I told the fans, do you feel like Aiyuk is somewhere, he put up that IG post a week or two ago about I shouldn't have to share my food or whatnot, and we don't know what that means, but to me it had something to do with the monies and the financials. Do you think, and this is a stretch, but do you think he's feeling like, okay, how does McCaffrey get done before I do? I thought I was a top priority. Anything there?
I don't think so. I mean, if he doesn't get taken care of this summer, there may be some bad vibes. But I think this is just going at the speed it's going to go, which is the Niners are tough negotiators. Every dollar matters. He wants to make sure he gets the bag. Why? Because the history shows that receivers only usually get one big payday. And so this is his one huge bite of the apple. I know none of us want to see history repeat itself with Debo and Bosa. But I think
those did get done.
But I think we're headed towards the same thing. I think we're headed towards it gets done in camp before week 1, and he winds up missing some time. I mean, I think he's going to wind up missing some time. Now, OTAs don't mean this much, but having your receiver who needs to be in lockstep with your quarterback is a bigger deal than Bosa. The other thing that nobody's asked about yet is the Niners. Yes, Bosa accrued fines, but they wiped away those fines. Yeah. Are they going to do the same with Aiyuk?
And we normally do see that. But what about Bosa's play on the field? He wasn't the reason they lost the Super Bowl, Larry. But we could tell that, it's almost like the Blake Snell thing. Like, you could tell he was going uphill early on, and Debo, for that matter, when he did what he did. So you kind of want to avoid that with Brandon Aiyuk. But it's interesting. I just asked you, you think he's upset, and forget McCaffrey for that point, just the fact that it's where it's at now. Listen to this sound that I thought was interesting. This is also from Willard and Dibbs with Huzmanzada on how Brandon Aiyuk is feeling about the situation.
It's disheartening, man, because as a player, you just want to get what you feel you've earned. That's all it is. And when you feel you're worth this and they're offering you that, obviously that's the case, because that's why he hadn't shown up yet. It's disheartening, and then it starts to make you angry. I went through this. I went through this as a player. It starts to make you angry, and so hopefully this can be resolved sooner than later, because the longer this goes on, it's just a lot of animosity on the player side. It just pisses you off. And when you get paid, you're happy about it, but you're still kind of angry about, like, damn, like, they really don't think I'm that good.
That's damn, Larry, and you know what I mean? Like, for all the people, oh, Guru, you're panicking. I'm not panicking. I'm being real. Like, this guy thinks, he's one of the top 5 or 10 receivers in the league, and for whatever reason, and I'm not saying they are, because when people keep doing it, citing when Debo signed, when Bosa signed, it was a month from now. Bosa, you just talked about it right before week 1. So I would be like, Aiyuk, be patient, but that's somebody in Aiyuk's camp that's talking to him on a daily basis to where, damn, Larry, you don't want to piss him off.
Do you have an agent?
No.
You don't have an agent?
No.
Okay. But have you ever had an agent?
Yes.
Okay, so you made a conscious decision to get rid of your agent and save all your money.
It wasn't worth it.
Okay.
Right.
Other people don't want to have, so the radio station wants to get you at the lowest number possible. You want to get at the highest number possible.
So the agent is the buffer.
And it's business.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you get personal? Do you want, some people prefer to have an agent so they don't have to have those conversations and they don't have to feel like, man, they were really grinding me. It feels more personal because it's like, hey, you know what? You're involved in the negotiations. So, I understand what he's saying. I'll tell you the one thing that I think that TJ brings up there that I think is kind of interesting is he's saying that, Brandon's like frustrated. What would frustrate me would be when I was reading that the 49ers were making trade offers for Justin Jefferson.
Man.
Because it's like, well, what is it? Did you want me or do you want Jefferson? And it's like, kind of like, if I was Aiyuk, I think that would rub me the wrong way. But at the end of the day, I think whether you're a radio talk show host or a football player, you just got to realize it ain't personal. It's business.
Yeah.
And it's a cap sport. And, Parag makes a pretty penny on his end to make sure he gets you at their number. And your agent's getting paid a pretty good penny to make sure you get paid at your number. So, don't personalize financial disputes.
Well, I'll say this to that, Larry, and you had brought up Mike Silver. I don't want to make the comparison of Aaron Judge and the courtship that went on with the Giants or whatever and how close he was. But there were nights I got into bed thinking when I wake up and look at Twitter, we'll have that news that he's in a new uniform and the Giants, closed the deal. And the reason I bring that up is that's how I felt watching the draft. Mike Silver had come out with a report that the Niners, and it wasn't just him, it was out there. It could possibly be Aiyuk. It could be Debo. And I'm watching Goodell go up to the podium when it was time for the Niners to make their draft pick, which ended up being Pearsall. But I'm like, oh, my God, this started there. And that's how I felt. And I'm wondering if Niner fans were looking around like, could Brandon Aiyuk really be traded? Where were you at on that? And this has been ongoing. And if it's all love, Larry, and it's good, and you want me to be here, then you pay me. Like you said, that's the definition of business. Pay me for my services. But I just get some type of feeling that Brandon, and I'm not saying he's wrong, thinks he's worth more than the Niners think he is. And that's why we're at this stalemate.
If you ask me, I think the wide receiver position has exploded.
But not for him yet.
Well, it hasn't for him, but it's exploded around him.
Oh, my gosh. Left, right, left.
And look at how many teams, Devontae Adams traded, Tyreek Hill traded, Stephon Diggs traded. Why is that? Because teams are looking at the cost of these wide receivers. Then they're looking at the marketplace. And it's one thing to pay quarterbacks a ridiculous amount because it's supply and demand. But the supply has never been greater for wide receivers. Every team in college football is running 4 and 5 wides. The spread is prevalent throughout the sport. There's deeper and deeper wide receiver classes in every draft, one after the other over the last 4 or 5 years. So, and then you look at free agents, the best free agent players still available right now, many of them are still wide receivers. So there's a lot of wide receivers out there. So I'm just kind of wondering, and I think other teams are wondering, do the supply and demand thing, the supply is great, and yet the cost is very high for these wide receivers. And there's already talk in Pittsburgh that the Steeler media believe that the Niners are going to trade Debo or Aiyuk to the Steelers before week 1. I think the Niners very well could. I don't think they're going to trade Aiyuk. I think it's probably going to be Debo that they move off of. But if the Niners go to camp this summer, let's say they get Ayuk's deal signed and Pearsall and Cowing really play well, and the Steelers come knocking at the end of training camp and say, we'll give you a second-round pick for Debo Samuel, they're inside their Super Bowl window, and they would be making their team worse, but that's a calculated gamble because you've got Cowing and Pearsall and what those guys can do, and you've got a team offering you a second-round pick. I think the 49ers may actually pull the trigger on something like that if Cowing and Pearsall look good this summer, if Aiyuk gets signed, if the Steelers come knocking for Debo offering a second-round pick. I could see the Niners pulling the trigger.
How weird would that be in a season that's so important to everybody wearing a Niner uniform? and them trying to get revenge and get back and win that Lombardi trophy. And you're going to figure out, maybe you already know how much you're going to pay Brock Purdy, but good God, I don't think there's anybody walking around in the Bay, Niner fans included, that, don't want to see more from Brock Purdy, because this is going to go into how much M's you're going to give him. It's been pretty already, but this is a big season. And Larry, I just can't imagine him dropping back to pass, not having the luxury that he's had in these past 2 seasons. Oh, do I throw it to Debo or do I throw it to Aiyuk? So that would be new. It would be weird. And I'm on record as saying if one of them are gone, I think the 49ers offense is not, will take a hit. It can't be as great as it was in the past. And I say that to say you were out at camp, and I know it's camp. What did you see from Pearsall?
Well, there's no doubt that Purdy to Pearsall is becoming a thing.
Oh,
from the standpoint of they've repped it on the field. You can tell. On Wednesday, they probably hooked up 4 different times on different routes. And, all the things
he
that people
said a thing.
All the things. Well, I mean, it is a thing. I mean, Barrows, when he asked,
we got him coming up at 1.
Yeah, when he asked Kyle about Pearsall, he used the word prolific. He's like, well, Pearsall's look kind of prolific out here. And Shanahan's like, well, I don't know if I would say prolific. But Matty was getting at what the rest of us are seeing, which is it's really, really obvious that Purdy and Pearsall have worked together on the field. And I asked Shanahan about it. I said, well, what do you got to be excited when you see Purdy and Pearsall hooking up like this. And he's like, well, you know what? Pearsall doesn't know all the right steps, and he's still learning the offense and this and that, but he knows where he's supposed to be. And Brock, he's earned that trust with Brock, so now Brock knows that Pearsall is going to be where he's supposed to be, and Brock plays on time and with accuracy. And if you're where you're supposed to be, he's going to find you. And that's what we saw on Wednesday. Those 2 hooked up 4 times, and
Damn.
Purdy is, loves to throw it in the middle of the field, and Pearsall loves to operate in the middle of the field. So there's a chance that Purdy to Pearsall might even be you may want a guy like Pearsall on your fantasy team this year, because it looks like.
Well, just think about, wow. I'm not saying
like
you're wrong.
They're
wow.
going to Pearsall. I mean, it looks like Purdy's going to be able to find Pearsall on a lot of key third downs.
So what does he do, if anything, Larry, different than Brandon Aiyuk?
No, I don't think he does anything other than he's a great route runner with huge catch radius and great ball skills. The one thing, there was a play, though, on Wednesday where there was it was a post pattern and down the field, and George Odom was playing the free safety spot, and he came racing up. Now, Pearsall's wearing the blue jersey, which means non-contact. He's nursing some injuries, so you can't hit him. And you don't want to blow up your own guys anyway. But Odom was laughing as that ball was in the air because he knew, I'm about to detonate on this rookie receiver. And to me, that is the question about Pearsall, is that he's going to run his routes in the middle of the field, and Purdy's going to throw that ball in the middle of the field, and he's going to throw it with anticipation. And what happens when he's not wearing the blue jersey? And what happens when some defensive back, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson or one of these guys, lights him ablaze? Is he going to run that route with the same conviction going forward? Is he going to wind up with alligator arms? Is he going to start short arming? Is he going to start peeking? That's my big question with Pearsall, is when he gets the example of the physicality that exists in the NFL in the middle of the field, does that impact his ability or his route running? Does he start to turn down those hits? Lots of guys do. The 49ers, that's their culture, is that they don't. Debo, Aiyuk, CMC, Kittle, these guys all run, JJ, they all run across the middle of the field with total confidence because they're not afraid to take those hits. Pearsall is not quite as put together as some of those guys. How does he respond when he gets lit up?
Hit the contest line at 415-523-4652 for your chance to win a Kevon Looney bobblehead and qualify to win an autographed Steph Curry jersey. The question is, Evan?
The question is, Larry, sometime in the last 15 minutes, mentioned there's been a lot of speculation about what would have irked Brandon Aiyuk from the San Francisco 49ers perspective. Larry said if he was Brandon Aiyuk, this specific thing would irk him the most if he were Brandon Aiyuk. What is that thing from the San Francisco 49ers? What would irk Brandon Aiyuk if Larry Krueger was in his shoes?
Good stuff. And the number to call is 415-523-4652. Damn, Larry, you got me thinking, like, are the Niners did they really roll the dice and think this rookie is going to be able to hit the ground running, or they see a scenario to where they're like, you know what, we can't give him that amount. He's not going to be here. And the reason I bring that up is PFF had, and I don't know if you're high or low on that, but I like them. They said the Niners, Debo and Aiyuk specifically, didn't get a lot of separation in the Super Bowl. And I'm like, well, damn, that's their outfit saying that. Obviously, Kyle and John aren't going to say it, but you never know what they're thinking behind closed doors. I wonder, did that game, was that the inception of an ideal of going to not replace a receiver, but I thought they had different holes, the offensive line, and, I keep hearing the company line, well, Guru, there wasn't a lineman worthy of the pick, but I say all that to say is I was shocked as hell that they spent their pick on a receiver. Your thoughts? And are they putting too much on contributions from a wide receiver when you got a Debo and Aiyuk that's a rookie?
Well, first of all, the Super Bowl, there's no doubt. L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie were the two guys that were the difference makers. I mean, you saw Purdy take a shot in the end zone to Debo on a post.
I remember that.
And
overthrown.
McDuffie was right there.
Yeah.
The PBU knocked it away, and Sneed is a monster. So both those guys did a really nice job, and, credit where credit's deserved, right? McDuffie and Sneed are badass players, and they played great in the Super Bowl. And I think the Niners receivers did have a hard time getting open against them. As far as did the Niners get separation? They didn't get the kind of separation they wanted. As far as why did they not go O-line?
Yeah, or just any other position, like the Pearsall, when Goodell said that, I go, wide receiver?
Yeah,
I thought we were good.
I mean, Lynch told us in the media sit-down the week prior that he felt they would go line of scrimmage, offensive line, defensive line, and they didn't. When the offensive line coach, Chris Forster, talked to us this week or last week, he said, hey, you know what? Difference-making offensive linemen wind up going in the top 15 picks, and the Niners picked 31. So he thinks that there are difference-maker skill position guys, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, that you can get in rounds 2, late round 1, round 2, round 3, maybe even as late as round 4, where he feels like you can find serviceable linemen, not difference makers, but serviceable linemen from the 4th or 5th round on. And that's what they did. The
quality wasn't there worthy of that pick, you're saying?
That's basically what Forster was saying. And also he was kind of making it seem like that's his philosophical approach, that he believes in difference-making linemen, and if you can get Trent Williams, you get him. But if not, you go for skill position guys and then draft O-linemen that you feel have good traits that you can coach them up through the years. And they got Pooney, they got Kingston, they got Nugent, they got a guy named Bryson Mays after the draft. So obviously, Chris likes those guys and thinks they have potential. But if they had picked in the top 15, they probably would have gone offensive tackle.
Man, Larry, I know it's June, early June. Shout out Larry June, but I'm excited about the NFL season. When the schedule came out a couple weeks ago, we know the Niners open up against New York. I think the NFL hosting the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. That ain't going to be easy, but I say all that to say is football is king. I'm excited. On the other side, we'll be joined by Matt Barrows. He covers the 49ers for The Athletic. We'll continue the Niner discussion. That segment was sponsored by Safeway.
Head to Safeway this week for amazing digital deals for members. USDA Choice Boneless Beef Tri-Tip Roast Untrimmed Twin Pack for $3.